Hi, Steve. How are you?
Okay, there we are. Yeah.
Steve, I can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
It's very, very quiet. I know why.
Hold on. How's it now?
It's perfect when I put on my headphones.
Oh, oh, okay.
I just realized they were plugged into the computer.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so how many did we end up with registered?
See if I can get need to log into the actual website. 13.
13? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I want to see what it looks like without a background. No, I don't like that. Yeah, we lost Armin. He sent me an email at 8 o'clock, so we won't
Yeah.
have him. But I know there's been a lot of interest. I mean, I think the trick is to recruit the mentorees. I think there are plenty of people who would be happy to be mentors. So we just have to do some outreach there. But I know Owen is perfectly suited for the role, and Armin seems to have the right credentials. We just need to make sure that we get him engaged. Maybe Fridays aren't good for him. I don't know. But
Yeah.
have to figure that out.
Um, yeah, and maybe it's reaching out to um, it's the universities, maybe through the Association of Collegiate Schools of Planning,
Yeah. Hmm.
just to say, hey, here's an invitation email, send it to your students.
Yeah.
So I do know that a lot of the universities have similar mentor programs and some don't. I used to participate in one, but it went away. And I thought that it was a pretty popular program, but
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I suspect that one may have gone away because of staff changes and staff bandwidth at that university. So
Well, we had talked about it right at the beginning of the COVID. We actually had a conversation about it. One of the first or second PPD conversations was about mentoring, and where we got fouled up was um, the APA has a mentoring program, and you can register through the APA to be a mentor, but you have to have all of your profile information online for them to use. And I just never got around to doing all the profile information. So I think if we did it something a little bit more lateral, peer to peer, or whatever you want to call it, within the confines of our own division, that I think we might be more successful.
yeah,
So
and
we'll
one
see.
thing maybe to do, and I was going to do this, and I'm trying to figure out where I got it saved at. I wonder if in the within the I don't have it here. Um, the roster, if it tells us how
Yeah, it does. There are codes in the roster, NM1, NM2, and STU. So it would be easy to pick out, the younger members.
Well, we could maybe send a special invite to them,
Yeah,
kind of thing. But I think maybe it might be something to have a regular topic in the newsletter, just one that repeats every month or every other month, just to say, hey, reminder, here's this opportunity. Email this point of contact to be.
yeah. And we could mine the student survey to find out, what's important, what they want to know about. And we talked about that a bit at the annual meeting. I think it was a very interesting discussion. And I think there was a significant issue in terms of what's being taught and what new planners need to know. And I want to see if we can't help to fill that gap. So we'll see. We really need to get Owen on here. He's a guest of honor. I'm sorry we didn't get one in January. Alyssa and I both tried to get speakers and we couldn't line one up. But I think it's a little.
But we've got one for June, and we just keep going, starting out.
Yeah.
As much as possible, try to.
Yeah, there's. I've been sending messages back and forth to Mike Anacave, and he wants to do one, but he doesn't want to do it before the conference. He wants to do it after the conference because he wants to talk with some people about what he's going to say before he leads the conversation. But that would be we might even be able to make a webinar out of that one.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we can do. So anyway, so where are you sitting right now? You're outside Atlanta?
Yeah, outside Warner Robins.
Oh, okay. That's closer to Macon then, right?
Yeah.
I know most of what I know about Georgia is based on the signs along I-75. So.
Right. Yeah. So I'm pretty much right in the middle of the state. So.
Okay. Yeah, our daughter lives in Chattanooga and we live in Jacksonville, so we go up and down 75 all the time. And it's a challenge when you're before you get to the Beltway, the last 30 miles or so of I-75, around McDonough, that's where it gets crazy. Yeah.
Do you have the whole transponder for Jacksonville?
Well, we don't have. I wouldn't use the toll thing anyway. I mean,
okay.
For one thing, if it's my wife and me, we're HOV like automatically, so we take advantage.
Well,
of that.
That's not HOV lanes though.
I know that toll thing is just. I've got to. I don't know. I'm against tollways on principle. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Because they just announced that there were Florida and all the other states are able to use it now. So.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that'll help, but it also seems that it's a reversible lane going through Atlanta. So when we're going north, it's only open going south.
You're going at the wrong times. Huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, by the time we get up,
Yeah.
It's after you get up and you get to Atlanta, it's already too late. So. One thing I learned from working at FEMA is that it's unusual for people to show their faces on virtual calls. It's we're all faceless here. I get a lot out of what I see on a virtual talk, so sort of have to go with the flow. But usually when if you go up on a FEMA deployment, you're in some distressed area that you know, you pretty much have to live out of a backpack in a hotel room, and that's not the case with me right now. I'm sitting in the headquarters building for the Florida Division of Emergency Management in Tallahassee. So we're starting to get some people here. Jennifer, I recognize your name. You've been on conversations before, I think. And you're muted right now.
I am sorry. Yeah, Stephen, I was at DOT for a long time, but so that may be where you know my name. I've recently become a consultant, so I joined this division. So anyway, looking forward to the information in today's meeting.
Okay. Stephanie, I recognize. And also, of course, just writing down things. Just somebody. So Jennifer, where are you? Are you in Florida now? Hey, I think it's a little after 3. Welcome you all here. I am not the featured speaker. Owen Beitsch is going to be chairing the Mentors Committee, and he's the main speaker. So we might want to wait a little while for Owen. But in the meantime, we can introduce ourselves to each other. And I'd love to see your faces if you wouldn't mind. So, okay, well, I'm Steve Tocknell, and for now I am or for this year and next year, I am the chair of the APA Private Practice Division, and I'm joined by, on the leadership of the Private Practice Division, I've got Corey Hull, who's the Communications Chair, and Alyssa Torres is the Secretary Treasurer, and Mark London is the newest member of the Executive Committee. He's an at-large member. So why don't the rest of you introduce yourselves and tell us where you are, where you're sitting, and what your interest might be in the Private Practice Division and also in mentoring program. Allison, why don't you start?
Good afternoon, Allison Brecky. I'm a manager at Matrix Consulting Group and a new member for the Private Practice Division. I am located in Bozeman, Montana. The company is headquartered out of San Mateo, California, but I'm remote in Montana and looking forward to the conversation. Mentoring, just a big believer in mentorship, especially just as I feel like the workforce is changing. So I think it'll be really important for younger professionals.
Which category do you put yourself into?
Oh,
Are you-
am I a younger professional?
Yeah,
I have local government, 20 years of local government experience before
Okay.
joining Matrix. So I'm not that young. I mean, I
okay.
pretend to be young.
Everybody's younger
I'm
than
a
you.
I'm
The
a
older
solid
you
I'm a
get, the
solid
younger
Gen
everybody.
X. I'm a
I'm
Gen
sorry?
X. I'm a Gen X.
Oh, Gen X. I was gonna say the older I get, the younger everyone else is. So most of you are emerging planners as far as I'm concerned. I guess I'm a diminishing planner at this point, but anyway. Okay, well, just I'll give I'll give Corey an opportunity to introduce himself, and then we'll go down down the rows here. Corey?
Yeah, hello, I'm Corey Hall. I am the communications chair for the private practice division. I currently work for the Ray Highway Foundation, a nonprofit based in Georgia that is working on throughout the United States on innovative highway technologies and solutions for zero emissions, zero waste, and zero deaths. Thank you.
Okay. And Alyssa, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Alyssa Barber Torres. I'm the Private Practice Division's new Secretary Treasurer. Unlike most of you, I'm actually in the public sector. I'm a project manager for Orange County Transportation Planning in Orlando, Florida. Lucky to share the same community as a couple of you. So nice to see you, Jennifer and Owen as well. Thanks for being here today.
Okay, and Mark.
Hi, Mark Lundgren. I'm president of Land Pointer Limited, consulting firm focusing on public outreach and consensus building on land use matters. I began my firm following a long federal career in planning and real estate. I've been a member since 2009 of this division.
That makes you a veteran around here.
I guess so.
Jennifer.
Thanks, Steve. I'm glad to be here. I'm Jennifer Stoltz. I am a principal and project manager with Renaissance Planning Group. I'm fairly new to consulting. I've been with the firm about 6 months. I was previously a consultant a very long time ago, but have spent most of my almost 30 years in the public sector. And so I joined the private practice division in large part to learn how to adjust my thinking more towards the private sector side. So anyway, that's my background. In Renaissance is a transportation land use planning firm, primarily though a planning firm, not an engineering firm.
Yeah. I'm going to save Owen for last since we're already in there, and I can introduce him at the same time. Stephanie?
Stephanie? Sorry. Okay.
Hi, I'm Stephanie McBrayer in Grants Pass, Oregon. I run a small land use consulting firm. I've pretty much been sole proprietor. I'm on year 6 of it, so I know most small businesses don't make it past the first 5 years. That makes me feel good. This last year has been a tough one. I've been struggling with health issues and threatening to retire. And I was recently approached by a stronger, younger planner friend from the local area who wants to collaborate with me. So the firm might get a little kick for a year or 2 more. We're trying it out. I'm at home, as you can see today, nursing some health issues. So it's a joy to be with you all today.
Okay. And Stephanie, I remember you from an earlier conversation. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Joseph. I am based in New York. I'm also a sole proprietor. I'm also in year 7. But I wasn't trained on how to be a business person. So still looking to learn business management skills and also taking on subcontractors. So there's just some basic how to manage my practice support and building colleagues, right? Working alone is difficult. So thank you.
And Owen is our, on the executive committee for the private practice division, is the chair of the mentoring committee. And he was the co-chair, Armin Aryafar, was a student at FSU. And we were expecting him, and I found out at 8 o'clock this morning that he will not be able to join us. So it's going to be pretty much up to Owen to lead the conversation. And let's get Andrew Russell introduced, and then I'll turn it over to Owen to take over. Andrew, we're waiting to see you and hear from you. Tell us a little about yourself. You're muted, by the way.
I don't think Andrew heard you say his name.
Okay. Andrew, could you introduce yourself to us, please? Or maybe not. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it over to Owen then, because Owen's the man of the hour. We're going to talk about mentoring, and Owen's the chair of the mentoring committee, and we want to sort of lay out an agenda and see what people think our mentoring program should be.
So thank you for the introduction. I think I need to tell you a little bit about myself so that any remarks I share will have a context. I haven't been in the division, I think, as long as some of you, but my thoughts are I've been in the private practice division for at least 20 years. Certainly a very long time. Whenever it was created, I've been here a long time. Unlike several of you, I have been in private practice with the exception of my first 3 years of professional work. So since 1982, I've been in private practice. And the firm that I currently work for, along with predecessor firms, has retained me as an economic advisor. So my expertise and my interest in planning is primarily from a public finance and the provision of services to communities and to private development. So I'm also a faculty member and have been a faculty member along with Alyssa at the University of Central Florida. I have been at UCF since the planning program was started and was part of the original team that participated in getting the program accredited. I think Steve approached me because of probably 3 specific things. I serve on the advisory boards of 2 urban planning programs, not one. So I serve on the advisory board at UCF. Oh, I guess I should tell you what the acronym stands for. Everybody isn't here with me in Florida. So I am in Winter Park, Florida. Yes, I forget these things. I'm speaking to the global interests of APA. So the University of Central Florida is in Orlando. I'm also on the advisory board of the Florida State University program in Tallahassee, where I actually got my master's degree. I received my PhD at another university. In any case, I serve in these advisory boards and have perspective here as both a private planner, one that has worked in a public setting for a large housing finance agency, and I serve in this academic capacity. So, interestingly enough, as a predicate to today's conversation and today's meeting, I was meeting with some members of my advisory board at the University of Central Florida. And the topic is very pertinent to what we're going to be discussing today. So I want to share some of the conversation with you and get your thoughts. The Florida chapter, now meaning in this state only, APA, has been approached by many graduating students, has been approached by many local governments, saying that some of the very entry-level planners and some of the people these agencies are recruiting to become entry-level planners, many without any planning background whatsoever, which is its own issue, I suspect, are coming into the respective offices and responsibilities with only nominal skills, which is kind of a frightening prospect from my standpoint, but nonetheless seems to be an issue. And what Florida APA is trying to do is to try to figure out a better way of integrating some younger untrained planners in with professionals in established firms or in established planning agencies to get some of those skills. And we're sharing with me 3 things that I think are deficient or that leads to the mentoring program in the private practice division. Alyssa, you're particularly going to appreciate this because Orange County was mentioned as an example. So apparently in the state of Florida, we can't possibly find enough planners to fill all of the positions. And frankly, it doesn't really matter what the nature of the planning effort or planning agency is. We apparently cannot find enough planners and are reaching out to every related and in some cases unrelated profession in an effort to fill spots. That's number one. Number two, because the net is being cast so wide and is going into related or affiliated programs or training, it certainly makes sense that some of the potential candidates wouldn't have some basic planning skills. I mean, that's an obvious thing that would unfold. But the third thing is that there's some debate, even among those who have graduate planning degrees, which is also still frightening to me, that there is some debate about what the core educational requirements, in fact, should be if you are going to be a planner. Now, I think for those that are a little bit older, this is probably not really a new topic, but it seemed to be a pretty intense discussion today and generated lots of discussions about subjects that we are especially interested in creating this mentoring committee or mentoring program. So in no particular order of importance is number one, is how do you attract students who are just feeling their way through a career? I think that is a topic that is particularly pertinent, not to planning in general. I mean, it is attractive to planning or of a concern to planning in general, but it's certainly a subject specific to private practice. The reason it's an issue for private practice is because at least it's a perception, perhaps a reality. And I think the perception versus reality depends on whether you yourself have a formal planning education or just extensive planning experience. So Steve, for example, has extensive and well-developed professional planning experience. I have a planning degree. which may have shaped my outlook on education and training a little differently. However, it's very clear that most planning programs are exposing you to the idea, and the faculty takes on a certain emphasis that seems to suggest your career pathway is going to be primarily in the public sector, which may also in some cases mean exclusively in the public sector. So attracting students, to the private practice division is a big challenge, because we as a group, as a career path, as a defined pathway to career development, I think is a little bit fuzzy. And we have circulated a survey. As I understand it, I have not actually seen the contents of it, but private practice at least was of potential interest to a group of people that would soon be leaving planning school, but are very, very unaware of what the opportunities might be. So the related subjects from my other conversation are simply this. What is the proper and appropriate pedagogy for planning professionals? What should be the core requirements? What should be the obvious preferred elective requirements? And perhaps what is some of the additional credit training that should be made available to early or younger planners as they start to map out their career pathway? And Alyssa is one of the few people that's on this call that has actually participated in helping specific universities get their planning programs accredited. So Alyssa, I invoked your name in my conversation of 2 hours ago, and I said, I think this is a topic that because Alyssa is here, we need to chat about in more detail. Quite logically, my other faculty members offered this, which I do agree with substantively, but only up to a point. My faculty members agree that the planning training in education, the academic curriculum, should be equally valuable to both the public planner and the private planner. How can you not agree with that? So the core requirements to be a lawyer shouldn't matter whether you're an attorney working for an agency or a private firm. I mean, you leave law school with a grasp of certain legal principles and you apply them for your preferred form of institution or client. So I certainly agree with that. However, what then falls within that range depends on whether your planning program is in a certain college, whether you're in a social sciences college, an architecture program, maybe even a business school. I don't know of any planning programs that are in the business school, but there may be some. So that tends to be an influence that pushes the training in a certain degree or a certain direction. But what clearly came out of the conversation was the idea that maybe every school should be thinking about a combination of things to include, such as required internships. Every program doesn't have a required internship. Internships open prospective planners not just to the real world outside of the classroom, but to possible opportunities in both the public and the private sector. In my mind, obvious. Number two, there was a discussion about, and of course, there's a lot of challenges with internships. I mean, that's a big logistical coordination problem. Another topic that came up that was of interest related to the idea of working with firms and major governments in Central Florida across an entire semester, circulating from one agency to another and having 2 to 3 hours or 2 to 3 hours of equivalent class time at an agency, being exposed to a very, very specific topic. And I volunteered my firm as a place that my students and other students of other teachers could come to my office for 3 hours and be exposed to the fundamental differences and fundamental influences in a private practice versus a public practice. And every other local government would have a topic or subject that they might spend in detail from that agency's or employer's point of view. So what is this all about? It's a debate about the pedagogy. It's a debate about the requirements which comprise the pedagogy. It's some discussion about why some programs are certified, why others aren't, whether planning is appropriately open to all people at all levels. How do you let students know that there are optional career pathways if they haven't seen the map? The whole idea in our mentorship program, I think, is a little more challenging than your normal mentorship program. Depending on the nature of your practice as a private planner, if it's in public participation, for example, where you're dealing and your clients are primarily public agencies, you have one set of opportunities. And arguably, from my standpoint, what you're exposing a prospective planner to is the same kind of work he might do if he's in a public agency, right? You're just doing it in a private setting. My firm is fundamentally an engineering firm. And the way we represent our clients and the way we work with them is vastly different than the way an agency would work with those clients. So the solution that was discussed about getting early students or exposed earlier to us was this sort of rotating program. I don't find a lot of my private employer friends, and I have many, because in Florida, private practice is a big deal. There are a lot of private practitioners in Florida. We are unusual. It's a little harder to find private practitioners willing and openly available to take on people as proteges. And we can debate why that's the case. Now, I'm hoping that among those that are on the phone and others in this division, all of us will raise their hand and commit to at least in the initial stages of bringing more students exposure to what we do in the private practice area, whether it's similar to or vastly different than the public area. I'm hoping all of us will take that on. And when I say take this on, there are lots of mentorship programs in other divisions and in APA, some more loosely structured, other more stringently structured. I myself am a mentor, not to other planners, but to other employees at my 800-person firm. And I make myself available, my mentoree, either because perhaps they don't like me or are very busy or feels pretty comfortable on their own, is not taking advantage of all of my resources. So as a mentor, I have some learning to do to make sure I create better exposure. So our program is going to, work through that, teaching, hopefully exposing our members to what it takes to be a mentor. Hopefully you will be a mentor, regardless of what it means. And my co-chair is going to be working on, emphasizing the need for students to try to sign up as part of the private practice division where they're not inclined to go, and hopefully we will take those on. That's the general flavor of what we're doing. This is such a formative thing, such a formative issue. I probably personally have many more questions or unanswered questions of my own than I do have answers. But I know Steve wanted me to make sure I emphasize that this is something we've never done before. We think we have models in the other divisions, and it's probably to the success of this division that we try to bring in students who want to pursue careers in private practice for a whole variety of reasons that maybe don't apply to those of us who are already in private practice. And to that point, for example, I am in private practice because my background is primarily economics and accounting. That's just nothing that is taught in planning school. So, I mean, I was kind of channeled out from the very beginning. So, you know, how or where we go, kind of depends on us. I hope that's at least a crude introduction to what we'd like to do. The things that I've seen in my, few hours being involved with this, and my early conversations with people who I think will be resources.
Well, I'd like to, open the floor then to what do each of us feel a mentorship program should offer, and what roles, how would we individually fit into that? I think the division as a whole has got kind of a dumbbell, I used to call it pyramid, but I think we're pretty heavy at the top and the bottom, maybe not so much in the middle. Although we have a number of student members and we'll be getting more. We haven't been able to keep them engaged. For one thing, you're only a student for a couple of years, and by the time you get signed up in a division, you're not a student anymore. I think that we also have a lot of emerging planners and young planners, because gig planning, if you want to call it that, is becoming something that people think they want to do in spite of the challenges, or maybe without regard for the challenges that gig planners might face. And I think there should be like a warning sign or something, like, before you embark on a career in planning, here are the things, resources that you have to have at your disposal, or something like that. So because it's not for the faint of heart. It looks attractive before you get started, and then reality can overtake you. So I think there are some what do you call it, disclosure issues that might be involved with a mentorship program, especially in the private practice division. And I think, to Owen's point, that I think a lot of planners in private practice are employed by engineering firms who don't necessarily know what a planner does, or think that it's not necessarily something that requires a full arrangement, assortment of skills. I had a dinner with someone from an engineering firm, and someone who was also from that engineering firm, who wanted me to start working at that firm. And he looked over at the guy that we were both having dinner with, and he said, "Steve is a great writer." And the guy looked back and said, "Well, of course he is. He's a planner. So what?" I mean, that was kind of the reaction. But so we're selling ourselves to people that don't necessarily place a sufficient value on the work that we do. I'm not sure how to phrase that, but I think that's a problem.
Well, the reason I went through my litany of things is, on the one hand, my mission, which you charged me with, was to create a mentor program, right?
Right.
Let's not all be confused by this. That's a pretty specific mission, and it requires that literally a handful of very discrete things get put in place. The things that I had on this list that Steve now is addressing are corollaries to the core mission, as why are planners steered or drawn to different industries and different types of careers, or why are they drawn to others? Do we want to broaden that appeal? Are we teaching the right things in school so that they get exposed to things that then give them options? I think the core mission is probably implementable fairly quickly in terms of putting together a framework. And then there's some intermediate term issues, which I haven't really identified, that probably can be worked on. And then there's some clearly longer term things, such as the planning pedagogy, that we as APA, we influence that, which is why I wanted Alyssa on the call. It's because we do influence that. I mean, you're not going to be accredited without the blessing of the likes of Alyssa and other people that participate in the accreditation process. And historically, we pay homage as an organization to certain people, certain kinds of coursework, and certain subject matter, which may or may not be a product of coursework. And while the accreditation process is intended to be very objective, within all those categories of objectivity, certain aspects are also very highly subjective. And every school can't fulfill them and doesn't fulfill them equally. And my guess is if we were to line up all the planning programs, there would be a core group of things, or a subject even, that each school offers. But then after that, they're very different, as I said, depending on the college, actually depending on the program, depending on the college, depending on the university. So
let me ask you, Owen, a planner, a new planner, an emerging planner, a recently graduated planner comes into the workforce, let's say in the private sector, what does he immediately want to know? What would she most likely need mentoring about? Would they be skills that they didn't pick up in planning school, like outreach or quantitative skills, or would they be more like management skills or HR kind of issues?
that's a very, very fair question. I'd like to hear others address that. I will take it for a shot, but I think that would be good to hear from others, because these topics, we heard some people say they're interested in business skills, for example. I'll
take that charge, and then if I may, and jump in, because I think, Steve, of course, does bring up a good point, and you've made several about, as an emerging planner joins the workforce, what she or he might be looking for in terms of achieving the next stage of that career. I would like to say, though, I think when we look at the idea of forming a mentorship committee, that really there are some services and value to member that we can offer at various stages of their career with this kind of charge. And I know when we started the call and people talked about the needs that they have for mentoring. Well, been in the public sector and now I've joined the private. How do I handle that transition? I heard Safani say that she needed some more feedback and some, potentially some information about some of the business and financial side, even though, of course, she's been, successful on her own for several years. I would say Safani was generous enough to give the communications committee a communications masterclass that was incredibly helpful to us. So if there's folks among us who might need a little more help marketing their firm, what can I do on social media? Of course, she would be absolutely the best person to look at that. And then I heard too that we might be looking at some firms like Stephanie's where, hey, suddenly I'm growing, and how do I do that? I want to grow more. So whether it's a crossover between, the mentorship committee and the education committee who does the webinar programs, maybe there are some targeted webinars similar to what Brad did with like the client relations one in the past that might be really helpful to people in that mid-career or transition stages of either their own career or their business. And then I think too, I know we talked about at some point that it may be something in the later stages of careers for planners who might choose to apply for a nomination to the College of Fellows to become FAICP. And so really, it seems like a very broad spectrum of mentoring needs that private practice can provide for members. And not only, of course, to provide that services to members, but also to help connect members, among their peers.
Those are all good points. And I think that the nature of the planning profession is that you might need an entirely new skill set every 3 or 4 years. And someone much younger than myself might have skills that I desperately need to acquire, put it that way.
Well, I mean, I think that's a.
Bonnie's got her hand up.
Yeah.
She's got some comments.
Yeah, we got the hand up too.
Hello, folks. Yeah, so I also play the role of academic. I have a PhD and I've worked across schools of architecture and public policy. So the idea of what planning means is very different. And often the two polar opposites don't talk to each other. I think as far as the private practice division pipeline, it needs to be mentorship, but what does that mean to students? Like they're always being told to have mentors. But I think that this generation really likes like incubator business training type programs, right? Like the presumption that the private practice population already exists, as opposed to thinking of it as somebody that needs to be like trained into the idea that they could be a private planning practitioner. Yeah, like what are you giving them to make them, my students, it's like what's their, I don't know, thinking about the market, what are they getting from me that makes them want to take this class or sign up for this studio? And I think, like I'm saying, and then they're not being trained on how to run a business or how to work for private firms. And if you want to recruit them, you need to teach them that. That's it.
I believe you were the one that said you wanted some additional business training. Is that correct, Stephanie? Did I hear you say that?
Yes. Like, I mean, I've been running the business for a number of years, like as an individual, but as far as like getting business insurance, getting a bookkeeper, thinking about my margins, making my services very, static, and how much am I pricing for planning services. Again, these are like very real tasks that I wish I had known 7 years ago, right?
Yeah, those are great. So I think that's to Alyssa's comment, which frankly, I don't know that I thought about.
Thought about what?
I mean, obviously, in my mind, this would always be available to members. I hadn't thought about members who were more mature in their professions. So that's a very good point. So, I mean, the existing membership who needs things beyond this conversation are an obvious target.
Yes.
But somehow, which was your point, but it's also the point.
Well, I think there are a lot of people in the private practice division who are sort of where Jennifer is at right now, where they have plenty of public sector experience, and then they find themselves in a private sector role. And there's a, I mean, that could happen at any stage in your career, I think, but you know, you're all of a sudden faced with duties or responsibilities that are more oriented to the welfare of the firm as a whole than to your, you know, your personal satisfaction, put it that way. And I've always had a very self-indulgent approach to the work that I did. And then I woke up one morning and I was working at an engineering firm, and they put me in a different frame of mind, I'll put it that way. But I was still a planner. I mean, just that I think the planners had to work harder to get, you know, to hit the same numbers than the engineers did. And that, you know, that was a challenge, definitely. But if I had some of the skills that the engineers seem to have been born with, it might have gone more easily for me. So that's a good point. I mean, if we were going to set up a mentoring program, or it's not if, I mean, as we set up the mentoring program, we should ask our members, what do they lack, you know, at whatever level they're at, middle, you know, upper, junior, senior, that they feel like they could get out of a mentoring program as mentorees, instead of approaching it as, you know, sort of older members, you know, sharing their wisdom with younger members. It's like, what about older members who don't know squat about social media, for example? That's a, you know, I'm sure that there are younger members who could become the mentors to the what do you call it? The technology challenged members, such as myself.
Challenged seniors, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. Okay, well, have we've heard from most of you. I haven't heard from Allison too much, and I've spoken for Jennifer, which may not be fair to Jennifer, so I could try to throw this around a little bit.
It's totally fair. You categorize me correctly, and I think there's things I feel like I need help with and things I feel like I've got a handle on, but certainly whenever I've hired younger folks, I always learn so much from them. And again, to your point, often in the technology realm, it's like, oh, hey, we have GIS. And they're like, yeah, but you're not using it for this and this and this. Like, there's all these cool elements and plugins that we're not using. Why are we not using it? It's like, okay, let's go get a budget for that. Let's get these additional things and really kind of max out the technology. So I think the mentorship absolutely can go both ways. But I also like the idea. I mean, I understand if someone that's sort of more mid or late career, may need different things. And maybe those, I think to Alyssa's point, are maybe more of a single session as opposed to an ongoing mentoring relationship. I mean, I would welcome that as well. I'm open to all of it, but I'm really glad that we're kind of thinking broadly about that, because we've kind of got everybody here, right? I mean, folks that maybe at a point where they're wanting
far
to
more
hand off.
broadly than I was when I got on the phone. So Jennifer, you don't mind oversharing? I mean, I think it's clear what Stephanie thinks she would like some additional exposure to.
Yeah.
I think you guys are getting me and Safroni mixed up. I'm Stephanie.
Oh,
and I haven't spoken yet.
Oh man, I don't have on my glasses, so oh my God, I see that now. I
have the gray hair.
That is as far as I got. SPH is what my eyes are reading, not the rest of the name. Okay.
Allison, we haven't heard anything from Allison, and she's waiting. She turned on her camera because.
Yeah.
So I want to. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like Jennifer, I'm very new in the private practice after just working local government. So it's definitely a transition that luckily my company has helped me, adjust to that, just the differences in work. And of course, working remote 100% is a big difference. But I would like to just think about ways that we can offer some mentorship opportunities beyond our membership. Just thinking about, sessions that divisions can sponsor at the national conference. I know I attended one last year in Philly that was hosted by the women's planning division that actually just it was kind of like an open share, but I was able to ask the question, what about the transition from public to private, and how can I market myself if I've only been in local government? And they provided some just great answers that I actually was able to use and take forward with me to find another opportunity. So I think if we're just doing members, that might be a little bit limited in terms of, because I just don't know if, thinking back 20 plus years now when I first got out of grad school, I'm not really sure if I was thinking about divisions of the APA to be a part of.
Okay, well, we're glad you're here and hope we can help. I think we should also mention that the new edition of the private practice handbook is on the streets now, and everyone should have gotten a link to it that you can download. And we're very proud, and we'll be promoting it heavily at the National Planning Conference. How many of y'all on this call are planning to attend the National Planning Conference in Minneapolis? Oh man, not a big crowd. So yeah, that makes the virtual part that much more important. But we'll get some members there, and if you not necessarily for this audience, but I got a box of ribbons that say private practice division that you can put under your badge. So it looks like I won't need any for this group. That's too bad. Campus is nice in the spring, but anyway, so we can just about wrap it up now. I guess we're still working on scheduling the next series. I'm talking with Brad Strader, the vice chair, about setting up a more regular schedule. So, but you can generally expect that it will be on the fourth Friday of the month at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. And we may skip July and August, and the last 2 years we've combined the November and December. So however many that adds up to, that's how many we're planning to do. And if you've got ideas or topics or suggestions or things you want to bring up in PPD conversations, please weigh in, and I will try to. I'm going to ask Corey to get an email back to the people who participated, so that you each know, have a little opportunity to follow up with each other on anything we discussed or any networking opportunities that you might want to share. So that's it. It's about 5 minutes to 4, and we promised to limit these to an hour. And we all got the time. Mark, I haven't heard from Mark. You got any thoughts now about this? You can wrap us up.
I was reflecting on some of the methodologies that the participants today were talking about in terms of establishing a plan for mentorship program. During my last few years with the General Services Administration, they had a very aggressive program they'd hired consultants to develop it and all that. And a lot of it was based on needs assessment by the participants. So there were structured questionnaires that were sent out. Now we talked about sharing with others what what would you like to have added in terms of knowledge about different aspects of the practice and so forth? And I would distill that kind of into kind of a bottom up as opposed to a top down approach. Ask the participants what they feel that they need, I think would be an important part of organizing the program for PPD.
I did talk to Armin. We actually face to face had a meeting about a week and a half ago. We talked a lot about the things that Owen mentioned with students and how the schools need to orient their students more effectively for what they call the planning practices. And he and I both agreed on that, along with Owen, that this is something we need to do. So so he's on board, and I found myself since he's a student and I'm the opposite of a student. I mean, I'm old enough to be his grandfather at this point.
Well, the other thing I just wanted to add is perhaps distill it when you're, pick 6 or 7 organizing principles that the committee organizing this wants to make sure that that would become shared with the mentees. And I'm not going to venture to guess what those are, but try not to make it too overly complicated and too numerous.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we're going to wrap this up, but and I regret that Armin couldn't join us, but I'm sure that he's going to play an active role. And thank you, Owen, for leading this conversation and for the role that you're about to play, or you will be playing, as we move forward. With the
Can I throw one thing in really quick?
Yeah, sure.
If a mentor program is being developed, I think it would be really important. We're at a critical stage right now. People like me, I started out when reports were written on typewriters. And the early advice I got was, don't let them know you know how to type or you'll turn into the secretary. Right now, I need to learn from younger planners as much as I have wisdom and stuff to share with them. And if you build into the mentor program, what does the more experienced planner learn from the younger ones? I'm thinking housing is a big deal. Climate change issues are not things we older planners tend to think about. Tech stuff for sure. I don't know how to work AI. I'm terrified of it.
Yeah.
So make sure that it goes both ways, that the mentor is learning from the mentee as much as the mentee is learning from the mentor.
Absolutely. That's a great way to wrap it up. So we will. Thank you all for joining us, and I know Alyssa's taking great notes. So I'll wait to see how that all boils down, and Corey will be sending a follow-up message to those of you who are on the call. So we'll wrap it up now, and hope to see you at the next conversation. Take care.
Thank you, Steve.
Have a
Bye.
great weekend.
Everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.